I used to think that losing everything was the end of a story. The final page. The moment the screen turns black and the music stops. I didn't know that. For me, it was only the beginning. When I look back now, it feels like a movie I once watched. There is a girl on the screen. She is smiling. She believes her life is simple, safe, and full of love. That girl is me. But she has no idea what is coming. Back then, my days started with soft light on the bedroom wall. The sun pushed through thin curtains, drawing gold lines on the floor. I woke up to the sound of cars outside and the soft rhythm of his breathing beside me. In those quiet moments, I felt calm, like I belonged somewhere in this world. We had a small apartment. The paint was old, the floor made little noises when we walked. But to me, it was home. In our tiny kitchen, I made coffee every morning. The smell filling the whole place. He sat at the table, hair messy, scrolling on his phone while I placed his cup in front of him. Sometimes he looked up, smiled, and said, "Thank you," and my heart felt full. We didn't have big plans. We talked about one day all the time. One day we would travel. One day we would buy a bigger place. One day we would start a family. Our dreams lived between dirty dishes and late-night movies. They were simple, but they were mine. He was not perfect. Sometimes he went quiet and stayed inside his own thoughts. Sometimes he forgot things that were important to me. But I told myself, no one is perfect. He loves me. That is enough. And I wanted so badly for it to be enough. My name is not important, but my heart was. I carried my world inside that relationship. My value, my future, my idea of who I was, they were all tied to him. If he was happy with me, I felt beautiful. If he was upset, I felt like I was breaking. He was my anchor, and I wrapped my whole life around him. I had my own dreams doing work that mattered, helping my family, making my parents proud. I wanted to feel strong and seen. But in my mind, all of that would happen when we were ready. When we were more stable. When we were married. I didn't see that. Slowly, my life was becoming only his. The change came quietly. It started with small things. He began coming home later than usual. At first it was once a week, then twice, then almost every day. "Work is crazy," he would say, as he kicked off his shoes. He was tired. So I did not ask many questions. I wanted to be the understanding girlfriend, not the difficult one. Then there were the messages he didn't answer. I sent a simple, "How is your day?" and saw the 2 blue ticks appear, but no reply. Hours passed. I checked my phone again and again. In my chest, something small and scared began to move, but I pushed it down. We still sat together on the couch, but it felt different. His body was next to mine, but his mind was far away. When I tried to talk about my day, his answers were short. The warmth between us began to fade, like the last light of the day. I told myself it was just a phase. Every couple has ups and downs, right? Maybe I was too needy. Maybe I needed to be more fun, more interesting, more something. I started changing small things about myself. I talked less about my worries. I laughed even when I felt like crying. I was afraid that if I said the wrong thing, the life I loved would disappear. One evening, the truth walked straight into my hands. He was in the shower, and his phone buzzed on the table. Usually, I never touched it. I respected his privacy, and I trusted him. But that night, my heart was too loud. My fingers moved before my mind could stop them. I picked it up. On the screen, a message glowed bright. It was from a woman I didn't know. There were hearts. There were words that used to belong to me. "Last night was perfect. I miss you already." Time slowed. The sound of the water in the bathroom became distant, like it belonged to another world. The room, our small apartment, suddenly felt like a stranger's place. My hands were shaking. I opened the chat, and each message cut a new line across my heart. They talked about meeting, about secrets, about love. In one moment, I became a stranger in the life I thought I owned. There was no big fight. When he came out of the shower, I was sitting on the edge of the bed with his phone in my hands. Our eyes met, and he knew. The lies fell between us without a word. He tried to explain, to say it just happened, that he didn't mean to hurt me. His mouth moved, but I could not really hear him. Inside, there was only a loud, breaking sound. The days after that moved like a slow, painful storm. He said he was sorry, but his sorry could not change what I had seen. The trust was dead. The home we built together felt poisoned. Every corner of the apartment held a memory that now made my stomach hurt. We both knew I had to leave. He did not ask me to stay, and I did not beg him to love me again. I packed my life into boxes with trembling hands. Clothes, books, a few plates, small pieces of a shared past. Every item I wrapped felt like another goodbye to him. To us, to the person I used to be. Friends who once called often became quiet. Some did not know what to say. Some did not want to choose sides. So they chose silence. I went from having a busy phone to staring at a dark screen. No more shared coffee. No more evening walks. My confidence, already weak, began to fall apart. Fear came first. Fear of the future, of money, of being alone. Then shame. I told myself that I was not enough. Not pretty enough. Not fun enough. Not smart enough to be loved faithfully. Loneliness followed, heavy and cold. Nights were the worst. The bed felt wider. The room felt louder. My mind replayed every moment, trying to find the exact second when I lost everything. The new place I moved into was small and strange. One room, one window, one thin mattress on the floor. The walls were bare. There were no pictures, no memories, just empty space. On the first night, I sat on the floor with my back against the wall. Surrounded by half-open boxers, the light from the street painted weak lines on the ceiling. Was I really so easy to leave? I whispered into the dark. No one answered. Tears came. I cried for the girl I used to be, for the love I thought I had, for the home that was no longer mine. That night, I broke. Something inside me shattered completely. But under all that pain, very quiet, there was a tiny sound, a whisper, almost too soft to hear. Breathe, just breathe. I didn't know it then, but that small whisper was the first sign. The story was not over. It was only changing. The first morning after everything fell apart was painfully quiet. No messages, no footsteps in the hallway, no warm voice calling my name, just silence. For a long time, I lay there, staring at the pale ceiling of my new room. My body felt heavy, like my bones carried all the sorrow in the world. But something inside me, the same small whisper from the night before, told me to move. So I did. I stood up. My legs were shaking, my eyes still swollen, but I took one step, and then another. That morning, I walked outside and bought myself breakfast from a little bakery on the corner. Just a simple piece of warm bread and a cup of coffee. It wasn't special, but it felt important. It was the first thing I had done for myself in weeks. As I sat on a bench, holding that warm cup between my cold hands, I realized something. I was still here, broken, yes, but breathing. And maybe that was enough for now. That day became the first small step in my journey back to myself. The pain didn't disappear, but I felt a tiny spark of life returning, a soft, quiet hope. In the days that followed, I started rebuilding not my home, not my relationship, but my own heart. I bought a simple notebook and began writing in it. At first, the pages were filled with tears. I wrote about the betrayal, the emptiness, the nights I couldn't sleep. But soon, my words began to change. They became softer, kinder. I wrote small things like, I made it through today, and I deserve peace. Writing helped me understand that my feelings had value, that I had value. I took long walks around the neighborhood. Sometimes I cried while walking, the wind wiping the tears from my cheeks. Sometimes I stopped to watch children play or old couples sit on benches, holding hands. Life continued around me, and slowly, I began to feel part of it again. Every morning, I sat by my window with a cup of tea. I watched people go to work, watched the sky change colors, watched myself come back to life. For years, I had spoken to myself with criticism, never with love. But now, in the quiet of my new life, I started talking to myself the way I would talk to a friend. It's okay to be sad. You're trying. That's enough. You matter. Those words felt strange at first, but little by little, they became true. One afternoon, as I struggled with a heavy bag of groceries, a neighbor I had never met noticed. He smiled and held the door open for me, saying, "Rough day." Something in his gentle tone made my chest soften. He didn't know my story. He didn't owe me anything. But his kindness reminded me that the world was not only full of people who leave, it also had people who stay, even for a moment. Another day, a coworker invited me to sit with her during lunch. She didn't ask about my past or my pain. She just shared her food and laughed softly. And that small act made me feel human again. These people did not save me. They didn't fix my life, but they showed me something I had forgotten. I still belonged in this world. Of course, healing was not simple. There were days when the memories hit me like waves. Days when I replayed the betrayal in my mind, wondering why it happened. Days when I asked myself if I had been too much or not enough. But one morning, as I read through my journal entries, I realized something important. I was not afraid of the memories anymore. I could look at them without breaking. I could remember the pain without drowning in it. His choices did not define my worth. His betrayal was a reflection of his heart, not mine. And slowly, I forgave him. Not because he deserved forgiveness, but because I deserved freedom. Letting go of anger was like taking a heavy stone off my chest. My breath felt deeper, my steps lighter. As my heart healed, new dreams began to appear. Dreams I had once buried under someone else's life. I signed up for a weekend art class, something I always wanted to try but never had time for. In that class, my hands moved slowly, creating soft shapes and colors. I felt peaceful and proud. Even when the paint smeared or the lines weren't perfect, I applied for a new position at work, one with more responsibility. My voice shook during the interview, but I did it. And when I got the job, I cried not because I felt scared, but because I felt worthy. For the first time in years, I was building a life that was truly mine. Then came the moment of release. It was a rainy afternoon. I stood outside, holding an old letter he once wrote to me. The ink had faded. The words felt empty now. With raindrops falling on my face, I whispered a soft goodbye. Then I tore the letter into small pieces and let the wind take them away. I cried deep, shaking tears. Tears of sadness, yes, but also of release, of rebirth. When the rain washed over me, I felt something powerful. I was finally letting go of the girl who loved him more than herself. I was stepping into a new version of me, hurt, but healing. Soft, but strong. Life didn't suddenly become perfect. There were still quiet nights when the loneliness returned. There were still mornings when my heart felt tired. But I had changed. I was no longer searching for someone else to complete me. I was learning to complete myself. One evening, as I stood in front of the mirror, I looked at my reflection carefully. My eyes were calmer. My smile was small, but real. For the first time in a long time, I recognized the woman staring back at me. I lost everything I thought I needed. I whispered to my reflection, but I found everything I truly am. And now, as I speak these words, I want to share something with you. The same message that saved me in my darkest moment. If you are standing in your own darkness, if you feel broken, forgotten, or alone, don't be afraid. Sometimes the light begins exactly where everything else ends. And sometimes losing everything is how you finally find yourself.